Late last week, SpaceX, Elon Musk's rocket company, went public and became for a moment the most valuable company in the history of the world. Bigger than Apple, bigger than anything. And the internet did what it always does with Elon. It spent the whole day arguing about him. Genius or fraud? Building the future or getting lucky? Pick a side. I want to do something different, because I think both sides are staring at the wrong thing. Notice what fans and haters actually agree on. Whatever else they fight about, almost everyone takes one side for granted. The guy is just different. He sees things the rest of us can't. He's operating at a level above. And that's not just how we talk about Elon. It's how we explain everyone who wins one of these revolutions: electricity, oil, the computer, the internet. A handful of people walk away owning the new world, and afterward, we always tell the same story. They were geniuses. They saw the future. They were simply better than anyone else around them. I spent the last few weeks trying to find out if that's actually true, and it fell apart almost immediately. Because over and over, the smartest people in the room turned out to be the ones who lost. Whatever the winners were doing, it had almost nothing to do with being smarter, and nothing to do with seeing the future. It was something else, something almost nobody talks about. I got it wrong twice before I figured out what it was, so let me show you. Start with the two men the whole world can name, the Wright Brothers. In 1903, on a windy beach in North Carolina, they did the single most important thing of their age, the thing the smartest engineers alive sworn couldn't be done. They flew. So if winning one of these revolutions came down to being the smartest, most visionary person in the room, the Wright brothers should have owned the sky forever. They were about as close to certified geniuses as the era ever produced, and they captured almost none of the fortune flight created. Here's why. The instant flight was proven and stopped being rare. Within a few years, inventors all over America and Europe were building flying machines of their own. The thing the Wrights had done suddenly became easy to copy. Instead of racing ahead to build what came next, the Wrights did the opposite. They got fixated on the one thing they were sure still mattered, their patent, and spent years in court suing every competitor they could find to defend it. While they guarded the invention, everyone else built the industry, the engines, the aircraft companies, and eventually the airlines. Flight moved on without them. Wilbur died young, worn down by the lawsuits. The men who gave humanity the sky ended up being a footnote to it. They couldn't stop staring at the thing they built, at the exact moment it stopped being the scarce thing. Two of the smartest men alive, and being smart was the one thing that didn't save them. Now put the Wrights next to a man who did the exact opposite, in electricity at almost the same moment. Samuel Insull spent years as Thomas Edison's secretary, the guy in the back office with the ledgers, while Edison was out being the genius, the inventor, the showman, 3,000 patents and the whole world watching. Edison was in love with the miracle, the bulb, the spark, the thing that made crowds gasp. Insull was looking at the thing nobody else thought was worth looking at, the bill. The dull little question on how you get electricity into millions of homes cheaply enough that people pay for it every single month. So while Edison fought patent wars, Insull went to Chicago and built the unglamorous thing. Giant power plants, miles of wire, a pricing trick where the more power you used, the cheaper it got. So people used more, which made it cheaper still. He wasn't selling the miracle, he was selling the bill. And it made him one of the richest, most powerful men in America. At his peak, Insull's empire ran the electricity for millions of people in 5,000 towns across 32 states. But it didn't end well for him. When the crash came, his empire collapsed. He was hauled into court for fraud, acquitted on every account, but died a few years later with almost nothing. Because it turns out, nobody gets to stare at the right thing forever. But for 30 years, the man looking at the bill beat the genius looking at the miracle. Edison got the statues, Insull got the empire, and almost nobody remembers his name. So after the Wrights and Insull, I thought I had it. And for about 3 days, I was in love with it. The rule was clean. The famous genius loses, the quiet nobody wins. Then Rockefeller wrecked it. He wasn't overlooked. He wasn't an underdog. He was the most feared businessman of his age. And he won completely, became the richest man who ever lived. Then Nvidia wrecked it too, the most hyped name in all of AI, the obvious favorite, winning bigger than almost any company in history. So much for the famous lose. So I stopped forcing it, and I went back to the ones who lost. Not to ask who they were, but what were they looking at? And there it was, in plain sight the whole time. The Wrights couldn't take their eyes off the airplane. Edison couldn't take his eyes off the bowl. They were locked onto the famous thing. The thing everyone could see at the exact moment it stopped being the scarce thing. And the winner, over and over, was the one off to the side, staring at what nobody thought was worth a glance. Insull wasn't staring at the light. He was staring at the bill. It was never about being smarter. Remember the Wrights? Two of the smartest men alive? And it didn't save them. And it was never about seeing the future either. Edison saw the future, fine. He was right about the light. He just couldn't look away from it long enough to notice what had already become scarce. And that's the part that stays with me. It was never really that they couldn't see it. The Wrights watched other people building airplanes. Edison watched the whole industry form around him. They saw it coming. They just couldn't let go of the thing they'd fallen in love with. Think back to the first video. Every revolution makes one thing abundant and quietly makes something else scarce. Not scarce like rare and precious, scarce like everyone suddenly needs it, and almost no one has it yet. The winners were simply the first to see what that new thing was, which is the uncomfortable part. Because right now, AI is doing the exact same thing, making one thing radically abundant: intelligence, answers, the models everyone can't stop staring at. And if the pattern holds, the models are the bowl, the gusher, the airplane, the abundant thing everyone's hypnotized by. Which means the real prize, the thing that quietly became scarce, is something else. Something almost nobody is looking at yet. So let's go back to where we started, to Elon, and the thing everyone swears he has that the rest of us don't. Here's what I think's actually going on. Forget the tweets, the drama for a second, and just watch the moves. He builds reusable rockets and makes getting to space cheap, so cheap that launch, the thing everyone thought was the prize, stops being the rare and precious thing at all. And the moment it does, a new scarce thing appears underneath it. Once you can put thousands of satellites into orbit, almost nothing, you can do something nobody could before. Wrap the whole planet in internet from space. That's Starlink, and it's quietly becoming a far bigger business than the rockets ever were. The value didn't stay with the famous thing, it moved. And then he runs the exact same play again. Because once the whole world is connected, connectivity stops being the rare thing. So the next scarce thing becomes the compute, the intelligence to actually do something with all of it. Which is exactly where he's turning now. AI, robots, intelligence everywhere, even off planet. Now, maybe that's him reading each new scarcity exactly right. Or maybe Starlink was half luck and the next bet flops. Honestly, I don't know, and it doesn't really matter. Because the thing worth noticing isn't whether Elon turns out to be right. It's that he's doing the one thing the Wright brothers couldn't. He refuses to stand around guarding the thing he already won. He keeps asking the question Insull asked, what's the scarce thing now? But here's what keeps us honest. And it's why this was never really about whether Elon's a genius. The same pattern that explained him can end him. The Wright brothers were the best in the world, right up until they fell in love with the thing they built. Maybe Elon keeps moving, and maybe somewhere in here he stops and becomes the cautionary tale instead of the example. Because the real question was never, is Elon better than us? It's the one the pattern has been asking the entire time. AI just made intelligence abundant, so what just became scarce? And I'll be honest with you, I don't know for certain. Maybe it's trust, in a world where anybody can fake anything. Maybe it's energy. All that intelligence has to run on something. Maybe it's attention. Maybe it's the plain ability to tell what's real. I've got my suspicion, but here's the thing. Whoever wins this era already has theirs. They're staring at it right now, while the rest of us keep arguing about the rockets. Maybe it's Elon. Maybe it's someone else whose name none of us know yet. So no, This was never really a video about Elon, or rockets, or even AI. It's a video about attention, about the handful of people in every era who can stare at the exact same thing as everyone else and notice the one part that just became scarce. In the first video, I showed you that every revolution moves what's scarce. One thing becomes abundant and something else quietly becomes priceless. This one is about the people who see the shift first. And what they have in common isn't intelligence. It isn't prediction. It isn't credentials. It's that they were asking a different question than everyone else. Because the machine can hand you an answer you want now. What it still can't do is tell you which question was worth asking. And in a revolution, one question is worth more than all the rest. The one every winner in this video was quietly asking while the rest of the world fought over the obvious thing. What just became scarce? So the only real question, the one in every revolution, including this one, including yours, was never, can you see the future? It's whether can you see what's already scarce right now, while everyone else is still staring at the thing that just became free. Which leaves me with the question I can't shake. And it isn't about Elon or AI. It's about me. What am I so in love with, so sure is the prize, that I can't see it already stopped being the scarce thing? There's a name for that skill, and as the machines get better and better at handing us the answers, it's quietly becoming the most valuable thing a person can have. But that is where I'm going to go next.